Ready to go?
Yes.
All right, questions for Coach. Start with Justin. Troy.
So, how has Kaina settled into his new role as a center?
He's been awesome. The cool thing is really seeing him take control of the group and get everybody on the same page, not just on the field, but meeting room wise. This summer, kind of organizing like different meetings and things like that. It's really been good to see him kind of take the reins and take control of the group, if that makes sense.
Troy and David.
During the spring, there was some snapping issues with kind of everybody in that center room. There hasn't been any at all during training camp. What do you credit that towards in terms of fixing those issues?
Really, the guys just working hard. And the addition of Josh Baker has really been huge for our centers. Anytime you can have a guy that has such a unique skill set in that way, because the position is fairly different from, say, the guard or the tackle position. So, those guys get a tremendous amount of snaps after practice and before practice. So really just their dedication to improving that, I think, has been the real driving force behind it.
David and Brian.
Josh, how have you evaluated the struggles that we've seen so far from the line early in camp, and what are the immediate things that you feel like you want to address going into next week?
I think there's always a growth period for the position, as well as a group that has so many new faces, as well as a group that's potentially not still complete yet, with some guys that are still kind of on the shelf and working to get back. One of the I think it's probably similar across the country, but I think every group wants to improve pass protection. I think we're doing some good things in the run game. Dealing with kind of what they're seeing every day, and the communication that's going on up there. But I think obviously everybody wants to protect the passer better. A great day is 0 sacks, right? So that's what everyone's striving for. Our ability to protect the passer is one of the things that we'll continue to stress and look to improve throughout camp.
Is that different, the pass protection, much this year with this new offense?
No, not really. I think it's just it's one of those things that takes a minute to get good at. And it just requires reps and continuing to practice and focus on it. We haven't really changed, the protection is just kind of protection. There's only so many ways to skin that cat, so to speak.
Brian and Justin.
I've seen a couple times where you've had drills where you're having offensive linemen blocking offensive linemen, and even like early on in camp where you had offensive linemen almost playing like a front seven. What's the benefit for that for the guys on the defensive side of that?
To hear the communication. They obviously see the defense that I want them to run on the card, and I have them line up over the position they play to kind of hear the communication and see the footwork and things like that. So it's ability for those young guys to steal reps, even though there may not be time essentially to get them the physical rep, right? They hear it, they feel it, and they see it, if that makes sense.
Is there any part of it where you want those guys on the defensive side to essentially try to rush like a defensive lineman, or is it more just about the communication?
No, there are times where we're full speed to fit. A lot of those situations are more teaching times than like actual physical grinding banger type deals. So most of the time it's full speed to fit, so that the guys on offense can see the movement, kind of feel the pattern, see what it's going to be like, and try to just time it up a little bit more.
Justin and Michael.
For when Rhino comes back, how do you envision him fitting into your mix? Do you see him as a tackle, as a guard? When he comes back, where is he going to go?
I see him as a tackle, as an offensive tackle. But the beauty of Rhino is that he can play both. I don't really believe in guys like losing their spots due to injury, especially with my background and kind of how everything went for me. Now, with that being said, right, if the guy that's in is playing great, then we'll roll with a hot hand, so to speak. But no, I fully envision Rhino to be back full strength sooner rather than later, and he's going to have every opportunity to step right back into the role that he played for our team in the past.
And then one of the younger guys that's been getting a lot of reps is Louis Akpo. What's just kind of your assessment of him, and what's just maybe the plan for him long term?
I think Louis is a great example of how much reps matter in our world as far as offensive line goes. When Louis first, day one, it was rough for him. But you see him out there today, and he's going against 60-year seniors making plays and holding his own out there at times. These reps are invaluable for Louis, and I think it's going to speed up his growth exponentially. Having to play against the guys that he's playing against every day in fall camp, and seeing the speed of the game, feeling what it's like to play that position at this level.
Go with Michael and Jason.
What is your philosophy in regard to moving guys around when some of the injured guys come back? That you could, if you put Rhino at a certain spot, maybe you don't have to move anyone else, but if you put him at a different spot, there's sort of a domino effect, right, where there's multiple moving parts. So what's your kind of theory about that?
My theory on that, and I don't mean to sound crass or anything, but I'm going to play the best five. However that shakes out. And I tell our guys all the time that you don't want to pigeonhole yourself as a saying that I'm only the left guard or I'm only the right tackle. Because at the end of the day, the best five are going to play. The best five that give us a chance to win. And whether that's Rhino at tackle, Rhino at guard, Rhino at center, however it shakes out. I guess, we do a lot of cross training in individual. What we do right, we do left. There are some guys like today. Mike took reps at both guard and tackle, and I think the more you can do, the more value you have to the team.
Jason and then Troy.
Kind of on that note, you mentioned Michael moving inside and playing tackle today. What's the biggest transition when you go from tackle to guard? The biggest thing he has to keep in mind?
The space. There's a lot less space inside. So we've talked a lot about just tightening his footwork up. He doesn't have, on the inside, you just don't have the room to operate that you do as a tackle. But in that same vein, that could also be a positive thing. Because the guy you're going against doesn't have as much space to operate either. Moving Mike inside has been great for him and great for his confidence. He's been playing big-time football in there. He's made a lot of big plays this fall on the inside, and I think it's kind of been like a resurrection for him.
And then we all know what happened last year with injuries and all that. Do you approach camp differently in terms of giving out reps, knowing that could happen again, or just to make sure maybe the second, third guys like that are getting more reps?
Absolutely. I think if you were out there today, you saw a bunch of different guys getting reps and getting reps at different spots. And I think the more that we can kind of lift the floor of the room, so to speak, the better we'll be. So getting guys those reps against the more top line defensive guys have been big. Whether they've been great reps or not, as far as like the success of the rep, just them seeing the speed of the game, knowing what that feels like, I think has been invaluable, especially for a lot of the young guys. And then once again, just getting them around some of the guys that have been in game, so that they can understand what that communication is like, so that it's not like, oh my goodness, there's so much that goes on up here,
Troy and then David.
A guy like Ty Buchanan, what has he brought to the table? Because it seems like he's helped kind of solidify the line in terms of his side.
Yeah, Ty's been awesome, and really all of those transfer guys have, because they all come with a wealth of in-game experience. And you know, I think all of you know, just there's no substitution for in-game reps. You know, practice is great, and you can learn a lot from it. But once you're actually in there and truly thrown into it, it's just different. The growth that comes from it, the knowledge that comes from it, right? Once you've been in there, there's not many new things that pop up. It's not your first time seeing this or seeing that. So there's a little bit easier recall for how to attack certain things when it comes to pressure patterns or twist games or things like that.
And then one of the other transfers that was working his way back up and maybe a little bit of schedule, Jordan Brown, is seeing him out on the field now and seeing him build up his strength and get back to normal.
Yeah, Jordan's been really attacking his rehab. He's taken no days off. He's excited to get back. He's in my office all the time, trying to, you know, keep the mental side of the game sharp. And you know, I was just talking to our head athletic trainer today, and kind of about how he's a bit ahead of schedule. But with that, we'll be smart.
David and Justin.
Josh, you're 6'8".
Yes.
Right. So obviously Tristan is 6'8". What are the advantages to having that type of height on the offensive line? What are the disadvantages?
So, you know, the advantage, one of the advantages is the length that you have. I talk to these guys all the time about, you know, the length of your arm is your reaction time. So the longer you can play in protection, the greater chance you have to react to the counter. And then, you know, as another form of like an advantage with that length, right? When you extend on a guy, there's just a lot less for them to get a hold of, right? So it hurts the defense and block destruction and things like that, right? Because they just can't get a hold of you. So that's one of the big advantages. And then one of the disadvantages is you have to focus on pad level all the time. It's a never-ending battle because you're just so much bigger than everybody else. So, you know, I talk to Tristan all the time about being consistent with his pad level and focusing on it, and, you know, playing with a tight core, trying to keep his chest on his thigh, all those types of things. Just simple reminders that, you know, hey, you are 6'8", right? And, you know, the guy you're blocking as a 3 technique, maybe 6'3", right? Well, no one cares. You know, get low and block it.
Justin, for our last question.
What is the next year for Alexander Deuce after starting the entire season last year?
Yeah, you know, I think the big thing for Deuce, and really just our group as a whole, is consistency. You know, Alex has made huge strides from where he started the season last year to where he stands today is night and day. His comfortability with the position, with the verbiage, and with the offense is night and day. He's truly started to take a leadership role in the room, because when you look at it, as far as snaps played for the Wildcats, you know, there's really no one in that room that beats him right now. So he's really started to blossom, and, you know, just the biggest thing for him is being that guy consistently every day. And so far he's done a great job with it, and that's been my charge to him. You know, everything I've challenged him with this off season, he's met and or exceeded. And, you know, it's really fun to see him play confident because the game has slowed down for him. You know, I spoke earlier about how, you know, when it's your first time out there, everything's new, right? It's your first time seeing this, it's your first time seeing that. And that's not the case for him anymore. So everything has started to slow down, which has allowed him to play faster, which has allowed him to see the defense better. And like I said, he's really started to take on a leadership role within the room. And I'm really excited about where he is and where he's headed.